What up?
What's up?
You just trying to do some research on how to get some abs?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
You're like, just by the way, guys, this isn't actually going anywhere. This is just for me.
Totally. That's
You're
so
like,
good.
you said what? I've got to do what?
What is up, you sexy beasts? I've got a real treat for you today. We're talking abdominals, abs, abdomini, as you might call them. And, abs might not be my number one fitness and health goal, but I would be lying if I said I didn't want a six-pack. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a group of people around the world that seem to be developing some pretty legit core regions, and they're CrossFitters. And it's not just the elite CrossFit athletes, it's the everyday CrossFitter. It's Bob from accounts, it's Sally the teacher, it's Wykie the YouTuber. Soon. But yeah, I've got my theories as to why CrossFitters seem to build such good looking and strong cores. But I thought, abs, whatever you call it. But I thought, why not call some of my friends who own their very own six packs and see what they think. How do you get it? How do you develop it? Do you have to do specific core exercises? Or what is their take when it comes to core strength, core stability, and aesthetically pleasing abdominals?
I think if you were to participate in a functional fitness class and also get extremely lean, like if your nutrition was dialed in and you were to participate in a functional fitness class that did full body workouts like kettlebell swings, you're doing pull-ups, you're doing chest to bars, you're doing some Olympic lifting, you're front squatting, I definitely think you can build a solid core foundation there. And if you got lean, yes, you would have a six-pack.
I am actually making a YouTube video about abs. It's not just for me. So I wanted to ask, firstly, do you think it's possible to develop abs or to get abs without doing any specific core work? Is that a possibility, do you think?
100%. This is a really weird prime example, but I just think of that really scrawny kid at school when you were 10 years old, and they're just super lean from they're not muscular at all, but they're just super lean. That's a prime example of someone who hasn't really tried to get abs. They're just kind of like the skinny kid who has low body fat.
Yeah.
So I say that it comes down to a more body fat percentage kind of thing, as opposed to an exercise prescription thing. It's not like doing 400 GHDs a day is going to get you abs. It's at the end of the day, it's that stupid, I hate that, abs are made in the kitchen sort of thing, but not even abs made in the kitchen, but it's calorie deficit, right? If you're at a body fat percentage that allows you to be able to sit low enough to get abs. But as well, I would then say it comes down to people's specific body type and body composition. When I put on weight, I often put on weight on my legs, and that's where I put on fat, whereas when I lean out, I probably lean out the quickest through my midline, and that's just not the case for different people. So I guess it's less exercise prescription, it's more body fat percentage, your type of body composition. You're like, damn it, that's not me.
Yeah. Is there a difference between having core strength versus having good looking abs? Do you know what I mean? Can you build good looking abs without, are they mutually exclusive or do they go together?
I think they're definitely separate for sure. I think you can have a very defined six-pack, but then be very, very weak in the core muscles that give you tons of stability. So I think you can definitely have a really aesthetic looking shape. Definitely an aesthetic looking shape, but you could be lacking in your front squat might be horrific, where that requires so much core stability. Or you could go do a Pilates class, which requires a lot of core dexterity and function and extra thought and focus, and you could be completely out of your depth and be quivering like a leaf within seconds. So I definitely think they're two separate things, but typically I think you'll find that people that do have work in their core, they're activating the surface level abdominals. Sometimes they get a little bit deeper. And usually typically the core exercise that you see in, say, like just a regular gym or even a CrossFit gym, they are working a lot of the main aspects to a pretty decent extent. But I definitely think if you really want to get super down to it, then you'd be looking at doing some bigger things. Like if you're front squatting 100 kilos, you've got a strong core. Like, you've got a strong core. You wouldn't be front squatting 100 plus kilos without a strong core in some particular way. But then when it comes down to it, if you want like true control, then I think that's when it requires some added attention, like maybe some, calisthenics or a Pilates style thing to try and, increase its to its full capacity, if that makes sense.
Just by saying that someone is naturally leaner doesn't mean that they have a strong core, right?
Sure.
So if there's someone lean, so that they don't correlate. But I have an investigation which you can find out for me. Over the years, I reckon that people who are more even, like it's probably more aesthetically through the abs, I'm questioning whether those people are not better athletes, but they're less injured athletes in regards to that. Like if you look at someone like Rich Froning, if you look at Matt Fraser, like, and their body, their abs are really, really even.
Yeah.
And then, this is a really random investigation, but I found other people who are like, when you have kind of like uneven abdominal, I reckon that there would be some sort of correlation between people with, like an even kind of body composition as opposed to staggered, and I'd like to know.
Yeah. I guess it makes sense. If you're like symmetrically built, then possibly you move safer and less chance of like imbalances and things. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, because I always noticed just a lot of those top athletes who are really, really symmetrical, definitely there's sort of like, everyone's going to have like unilateral imbalances and stuff like that. But the people who are naturally, before that even happens, they're just built a little bit more symmetrical, and that's kind of their body composition. I wonder if that correlates.
And so if someone's goal was purely to have good looking abs, like aesthetically, what will be your prescription? If they had no other performance goals, like they didn't care about anything else, what will be your like prescription for them?
Honestly, I think the number one thing, if you want just really aesthetic looking abs, is number one is nutrition. That's like, and it's usually like people, they don't want to hear that. It's like, no, I want some exercises to make them really come out. It's like, honestly, the biggest thing that's probably going to make them look good is your nutrition. You have to be, if you want them to be exposed and to be visual, you have to be lean. Like, you've got to get lean, and that usually comes down to nutrition. If I had to give you some movements that I think are really, really good for making them pop in the areas that you want to look aesthetic, like I absolutely love strict toaster bar. I think strict toaster bar is a great movement for it. I think it hits not only like the rectus area, like that real center part, plus also down low, but you also can get a little bit of oblique in there too, and a bit of serratus, which is usually what is aesthetically pleasing in most people's eyes, is making sure where that rib cage rolls around, they're all like really defined. So it'd be strict toes to bar. I think GHD sit-ups help a lot. But then in terms, things that someone actually asked me this question yesterday, they really wanted to define the outer side, the serratus and oblique area. And I think something that I personally find makes me very sore the next day in exactly the areas that I want to grow is just a side plank with a hip drop. So holding a side plank, hip drops down to the floor, come back up and pull it as high as you can, and trying to stay on that hip. And I usually anywhere from like 4 sets of 25 in a session would get you working pretty hard. So it'd be pretty much like strict toes to bar to hit the middle part, and then for the outer oblique serratus area, if you're looking for some hip drops. And if you did those plus some nutrition, you'd have pretty aesthetic looking abs.
I do core every day before my session, after my session. It's probably the thing I do the most, but the reason wasn't for aesthetics or anything like that. Mine's always for prevention of back injury, which is a massive one for me. Ever since I hurt my back a few years ago, core has been the number one thing. Like a strong trunk has been the number one thing that's kind of helped me avoid injury. Even I remember back in the day, seeing some photos of me. I was always quite like slim through like the middle of my trunk. My coach was like, we need to expand this, which I wasn't keen on in the first place. But yeah, so I use a lot of that sort of stuff. I used to worry about fatiguing my midline before I did things. For example, like I'll do a lot of like anti-rotational work, if you think about things like plank pull-throughs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Power press, all that sort of stuff. But I used to kind of like dull it down before I trained so that I wasn't fatigued.
Yeah.
But I don't worry about that whatsoever. So I do quite a heavy core warm up as such that is almost fatiguing, and then obviously if it was an important workout or a comp or something like that, yeah, maybe I'll dull it down. But yeah, I almost take that stuff to the extreme when it comes to midline stuff. But
yeah,
man, there's so many good movements out there, but I'm all about the anti-rotational stuff. I think that's massive. Obliques and rotation. Obviously CrossFit is a very like frontal dominant sport, like a lot of the stuff that we do. So making sure that you're getting in posterior work as well, and like reverse hypers and things like that, I think is massive. So
nice.
Yeah.
Guys, I think we just made like the definitive video on all things core, right? How good was that? These athletes, they're not just amazing athletes, they're actually incredibly knowledgeable people. I really enjoy that. I didn't go into that thinking I would get the input and the answers I got. I was just gonna basically, I just want to know how to get abs. But there's some great stuff in there. I love it. Obviously the takeaway is, when it's about aesthetics, it's nutrition. It's like Harriet said, abs are made in the kitchen. It's true, it's true. But I hope you enjoyed that. There's some good stuff in there. The rotational stuff that Harriet talked about, the deeper focused core stuff that James talked about, and the Pilates, and just all that stuff. It's good. Guys, I appreciate you being here. Hope you learned something. Keep roaring love, stay sexy, and I'll see you tomorrow actually. Very exciting news coming tomorrow, so stay tuned to the channel. I'll see you soon. Mwah.